Hi everyone, I wanted to introduce the 12-bar blues to anyone who hasn't already gotten that into their playing or isn't familiar with the concept. If you go to a jam session and someone says, hey, let's play a blues in A, most often, unless they specify otherwise, they're going to be talking about the 12-bar blues. So it comes in very handy in those kind of situations, but also it's good to get familiar with just from a basic musicianship level, because most styles come from the blues, like jazz and rock and many other styles. While I don't consider myself a blues player per se, I certainly have gotten a lot of blues into my playing, and it comes in handy in many different situations. So let me just introduce the concepts to you. And to begin with, let's go over the three chords that we're going to use in the 12-bar blues. Alright, so here are the three chords that I'd like you to get comfortable with. An A7 chord, a D7 chord, and an E7 chord. There's many different ways to finger these three chords, but for now, let's just go over them as bar chords. A bar chord just means that your first finger bars across the strings on the same fret. So for the A7 chord, you're going to have your first finger on the low E string on the 5th fret, our third finger on the 7th fret on the A string, first finger then bars to the D string from the low E, then our second finger on the 6th fret on the G string, first finger bars up to the 5th fret on the B string and also the high E string. So that's a complete A7 bar chord. If that's too much for you at first, what you can do is just play the bottom 4 strings, and that's still an A7 chord. Or if that's too much for you, you can just play the bottom 2 strings, and then build up to an A7 bar chord. The next chord is a D7 chord, which means our first finger is going to be on the 5th fret on the A string, our third finger on the 7th fret on the D string, first finger on the G string on the 5th fret, fourth finger on the 7th fret on the B string, and our first finger bars up to the high E string. Again, put it to a size that is comfortable for you. The middle 4 strings, or just the bottom 2 strings, or the whole thing. That exact same shape is going to be used for E7, up 2 frets. So that's D7 up to E7, same exact shape and fingering. So that's A7, D7, and E7. Get comfortable with those, and then let's go over how to put those into a blues progression. Once you get comfortable with those three chords, let's now put them into a blues progression. To begin with, we're going to start with the A7 chord for a measure, then a D7 chord for the second measure, and then A7 for 2 measures. Now each measure is going to last for 4 beats, so it's going to be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the first 4 bars of the 12-bar blues. The next 4 bars is going to be D7 for 2 measures, and then A7 for 2 measures. So it'll be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the first 8 bars of the 12-bar blues. The last 4 bars, you go up to the E7 chord for a measure, the D7 chord for a measure, A7 chord for a measure, and then the E7 for 1 more measure, which will be the 12th measure. So that'll sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the whole thing together will sound like this. I'm going to add a rhythm to it just to create a little bit of excitement. So it'll be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, back to the beginning. That's the 12-bar blues in a very basic version. All right, now what I'd like you to do is to incorporate the pentatonic scale. If you're not familiar with the minor pentatonic scale, there's different versions, but this one is the most popular one. It's the one that many guitar players use to solo with and also to create riffs with. It's the minor pentatonic in A, and so our first finger on the 5th fret, up to our 4th finger on the 8th fret, first finger to the 5th fret, third finger to the 7th fret, and then the same thing for the next 2 strings. So far we have the top two strings, it's our first finger on the 5th fret to our 4th finger on the 8th fret. Same thing on the high E string. So all together that'd be like this. I would get really comfortable with that, ascending and descending, and incorporate that into the blues progression. Let me demonstrate how you can take the chords and that scale and put them all together in the 12-bar blues. Okay, right now I'm going to just show you how you can practice going between chords and soloing. And if at first it's too much for you, what you can do is just play the chords through. And I'm going to attach a video that has just the chords for you to practice soloing over. But right now I'm just going to demonstrate how to play the chords and solo at the same time. And if you can do this right away, great. If not, that's totally cool too. All right, here's an example. 1, 2, 3, 4. In that example there, I was doing 2 beats for the chords and 2 beats for soloing, which means this: 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Just thinking 2 beats for chords, 2 beats for soloing. And when you do the soloing, I would recommend doing it in a very simple fashion. Don't try to get too flashy. Just select notes from that pentatonic scale that I showed you and incorporate it with the chords. Again, I would work up to that. Start with just being able to play the chords in the right order in time. And then, like I said, I'm going to attach a video that you can practice soloing over. And then once you can do chords and soloing by themselves, then I would do what I just did, where you combine the two together. I hope that was a helpful introduction to the blues, and thanks a lot.